was spending more than what I was making in the businesses, and then getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually I just had like a full aha moment.
So those who own homes are sort of accumulating, at least at the rate of inflation plus the rate of the property price going up. They have a big tax break.
I just got obsessed with money, and it was lucky I did.
Hello, I'm Richard Farleigh. Today in the boardroom we have founder and content creator Sammie Elled-King. Sammie started Up the Gains as a side project, creating content with the mission of improving financial literacy in the UK. It's since built up a huge audience across videos, podcasts and blogs. For his next move, Sammie is going from making content to building products. He's launching a finance app called Gains, designed to help people save and manage their money. He's here to talk about content, cash and common sense financial literacy. Well, Sammie, I understand you're a chess player.
I've been having a little go. So I love chess. I started playing a lot of chess when I was younger. And then it just, like everything, sort of just got pushed to the wayside. But at the start of, last year, I downloaded chess.com on my phone. So I was like, I just needed to kill some time. I think I was like waiting for a plane or something. And I just fell back in love with it. And since then, I'm now on a 103-day streak. And my goal is to play 3 10-minute games a day at a minimum.
How about we play a couple of moves?
I'd love to. So it's on me first, isn't it, as white?
Yes.
Okay.
You got the advantage. First mover advantage.
All right.
Are you quite a cautious player?
I wouldn't say so.
That move is quite cautious.
It is.
Because you have the option of moving at 2 or 1, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you moved at 1, not 2, so it's quite a cautious start.
I found that when I do this, it helps me because I can use the queen to open up the game.
Okay.
And so that's why I do that.
All right, let's see what you do with your queen then. I'll just do the same. I'll just go 1 square and... Okay. All right. You're looking at me for approval each time.
You're the chess champion.
You've got a fascinating story. You got yourself into debt and then found a way out.
Yeah.
At a young age.
Yeah. I grew up very much like. It's called peacocking, which is kind of keeping up with the Joneses, sort of showing off. As a young 18-year-old, I got sort of released to the world without a clue of how to handle money, how to look after myself. And I went to university, and it's like, you kind of left your own devices. And let's just say I've thoroughly enjoyed myself, but I spent a lot of money doing it, and money that wasn't mine. It was the banks and credit cards. Ooh. And so I racked up quite the debt level. I'd always started businesses and always had businesses growing up, and so I was quite confident I would work my way out of it, but then I wasn't getting. You were
spending what you thought you'd make in the future.
I was spending more than what I was making in the businesses, and then getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually I just had like a full aha moment, and had to have a cold hard look at yourself and sort of be aware of what I'd got myself into, and work in a completely different mindset. And so it changed my life.
What interest rate were you paying on your credit card debt?
So by the end of that period, around about 1/3 of my wages were going just on interest.
Oh.
So it was an enormous amount, and that was without even clearing some of the balances. So it was a big hole, but I managed to sort of clear it in 18 months from that point on, from that day that I said I would get out. So.
Which is lucky, because a lot of people spiral once they get into that point with compound interest and the high rates that credit card companies charge, they just never recover.
Exactly. My credit score didn't exist. If there was a chart, it was minus, and so no one was going to give me a leg up. I had to do it myself, and so it was a pullback of the heavy social life that I had at the time, which is a good thing. As a refocus on businesses that I was doing and the work that I was doing as well, and you can do it. it's just, you have to sacrifice and you have to be okay with that. Some people were all right with it sort of dragging on for a few years to get themselves out of debt. I wasn't about that. I wanted it gone as fast as I possibly could, and so I just got obsessed with money, and it was lucky I did.
So in a way, that sort of negative experience caused you to become, your weakness became your strength. So that negative experience became something that you became good at.
Yeah. And once I sort of fell into learning about money, I was running hospitality businesses, so bars, restaurants, nightclubs. And once I started learning about money, it was kind of clear to me at that point that was my calling. I quickly realized that everyone else around me was really struggling with it too. And I like talking, I like teaching, and I sort of started to teach friends and family members to how to get sort of started with investing or savings accounts and these types of things. And it just came really naturally to me. And so, it was one of those things where you sort of just find your lane, and I was like, right, I'm going to start going for it. So I started this business as Up the Gains as a side hustle. It was really just sort of putting out articles online, and it just started growing and growing and growing. And it eventually got to the point where it was like, okay, it's time to sort of go all in with it.
So how would you describe Up the Gains?
Yeah, so it's financial education. So it's breaking down the stuff we should have learned in school. So the basics of money management, saving, investing, the real basics, not advanced stuff.
Courses?
We do have courses, yes. That's
but more guidelines?
Much more on the social media content. We do a lot of work with brands. So we partner with brands from both an affiliate perspective and sponsorship perspective. We do long form, short form. We do. We have a website with 300 free guides for people on there as well.
Yeah.
So we do what I see in the way that the landscape's going. People learn in different ways. So some people like reading, some people like watching shorter based content, some people like long form content, listening. So we cater to everyone. Any way you want to learn, we've kind of got a guide or a video on it.
And it's focused on the spending side, not so much investing.
Very much more on the. It really is kind of, if you imagine it as like if you need to understand a certain type of personal finance, then we've probably covered it in some form. So we do the basics of setting up ISAs, investing, we do savings accounts, and pretty much anything you can think of. Credit cards, debt. Obviously, that's a personal experience for me, so I sort of help a lot of people with their debt.
So it's spending and debt?
Very much so, yeah,
right.
and investing too.
What is the most common mistake made by people with their finances?
I think it's the fact that they don't track anything. They spend like openly, and then they worry about money when it gets to like the end of the month. And they don't, a lot of people now, especially because we live in the digital age, right, with Apple Pay, it's so simple and quick and fast. You don't even, sometimes you're subconsciously making the spending decision and you don't even know you've done it.
It doesn't feel physical because you're not using cash. It just feels, and it's don't even have to put in a PIN number anymore. Exactly.
And so it can really hurt people. So what I tend to say to people is just put like basic rules in place. So if it's over £100, wait 24 hours instead of just purchasing immediately. It stops that kind of dopamine rush of buying the thing. And it's really interesting, 81% of people that impulse spend regret it the next day. So if you pull that back, then with that £100 rule, that will stop a large amount of that happening.
That's
so it is
extraordinary. That's 81%. I don't know where that number comes from. It's a very exact number, but that's a lot of people regret. Most people regret impulse buying.
Impulse spends.
So if you had to have a rule, it would almost be don't impulse buy.
Yeah.
Well, because if you wait a day, it's not an impulse buy.
No.
So don't impulse buy.
You've really thought about it, and 99% of the time it stops you from doing it. Like I know I'm a spender when it comes to my money, so that having these things in place allows me to just go, okay, do I actually want it? Like, am I being a little bit like silly here? And that's totally fine if you are. But then you realise that about yourself, and you kind of go, okay, I should probably just pull back on this one or wait, and it actually ends up being quite a good tactic, because if you pop it in the basket, pop your name and your email in, then most brands tend to send you a discount code. So then you get the 10% off when if you actually want it cheaper.
Hang on, have we got a hack here?
Yeah.
Is there a hack with purchasing online?
Yeah, baskets, empty baskets. So if you pop your name and your email in, leave it, 24 hours later, you usually get between 10 and 25%, I've had before, off the actual thing too.
Wow.
So it's not in every single brand, but if you're an e-commerce brand and you don't have that set up, you are losing customers because a lot of them will like empty baskets happen, right? You don't know if the baby starts crying in the other room and the mother can't do the purchase at that particular moment. They've popped all their details in and then they forget about it. So that's how they re-get you as e-commerce sites.
Right.
Yeah.
Any more interesting hacks for buyers, consumers out there?
Well, yeah. Well, we're building Gains app at the moment. So what it does is you connect via open banking to your banks. Essentially allows you to put all your banks into one place. You can manage your budgets, your spending, your savings challenges. We've got multiple calculators on there, but we also save you on your everyday spending with the cashback. And so how that works is you purchase an instant gift card. So just like you would when you go to buy someone a present that you can't think of what to buy them, but you know that's their favorite retailer. It's almost exactly the same concept, but it's a digital version of that.
A gift voucher.
Yeah, exactly. A gift voucher, a gift card. So let's say you're going to Tesco and you need to spend £100 on your food shop. You would buy the gift card either before or while you're in store, utilising our app. That would give you either, say, 4 or 5% back on Tesco. So £5 back in your account instantly. And then you would purchase your shopping using that card at the till, just like you would when you pay using a card or Apple Pay. Tesco will give us 5%. We would provide the customer, say, 4%. We take the spread. And the spread can be different per retailer, per amounts. And one of the things you can do is pre-purchase a gift card for that retailer. So if you are going to buy it, and we as an app, there are others out there that do that. It's called Cashback. We offer instant cashback. I know you had Jinesh from Sprive on, who similar. It's exactly the same format. His goes into mortgages, ours goes into your bank. So he's done a fantastic job with that app, but it works in exactly the same way, is that you can get that 6, 7, 8, 9% off and then potentially even layer that on with the empty basket discount.
You're saying that cashback is, I thought cashback was only a few percent. Is cashback can be more than a few percent?
Oh yeah, for sure. So some of the travel sites that we have like between 15 and 20%. And so if you're spending like a £2,500 holiday, well, that's a few £100s back. It's, potentially flights paid for or something along those lines. So it can be like really like significant amounts, especially for bigger retailers where they really want to get you through the door and you're buying a sofa or something of like significant amount. That can be the difference of £100, £150 off the item, which is well worth it.
The idea of the cashback business Gains came from seeing the direct desire to help people out there.
It's everybody's struggling with the cost of living. It's enormous, and it's getting worse for people. And so what our initial thing was like, okay, if the cost of living's gone up by 5%, how can we give you back 5% so you don't feel that pain? Because a lot of people are cutting out the things which are important to them, and we want to try and stop that. A large part of it is awareness around your spending and what's going on across multiple accounts. At the moment, you'd need to print out your bank statements or have a calculator and like be across them all. We want to digitize that and have it centralized, so you can have your Monzo, your credit card, your Barclays account in one place and see it all, and then move things around and budget across them. That was the real goal, and then the cashback is also putting their money back in their pockets, which they can then utilise. And
that's fantastic.
The future goal is savings accounts, investments accounts, and pensions all in one house as well. So it really,
I think a lot of the problems. I think there's two. How do what I call them? I think there's two big issues right now. Is which is affecting young people, affecting the affecting society. I think there is two big issues. One is the cost of housing. Yeah. When I grew up, I'm 65. When I was growing up, the cost of housing was like 4 times the average salary. Now it's like 8 to 11, 8 to 12. The cost of housing per wages has gone through the roof.
Yeah.
So that dream of owning a home is sort of almost become unobtainable.
Yeah.
And then the second one is unfortunately the equality of wealth is widened out.
Yeah.
So there's been a massive boom, as we know, in technology and a lot of other things, which has created a lot of wealth for some people, but not for others. So for the first time for a long time, social inequality, income equality, wealth equality has widened out, inequality has widened out. And those two big problems, the availability of housing, or the pricing of housing, and the inequality of wealth, are two big problems, and it's leading to political unhappiness, social unhappiness, political results, and it's very unfortunate.
It's really interesting when you see the graph of wealth inequality in the gap, when it was trending upwards, and then almost as COVID, it's like hockey stick straight through the roof. And there was a real change in the way that the monetary system worked, because there was a lot of influx into the system that made its way into the hands of everyday people, and then that's moved back into the corporations and then into the wealthier individuals' pockets over time.
Well, I probably disagree with that version a little bit. I wouldn't say it's been a transfer, that the money that went in the economy was a transfer to wealthy people. I'd say it's more like there was inflation during COVID because of supply chains, because it was so much more difficult for companies to produce, and that those inefficiencies didn't get ironed out. I mean, obviously there was money put into the system which led to asset price inflation, but I wouldn't just say that was a gift to wealthy people. I'd just say that there was a COVID caused huge inflation which hasn't been washed through the system. But what about the housing? Do you see the housing prices as a big issue for young people?
Yeah, we do videos about that all the time. It's crazy, and you're 100% right with the, about the 4 times income mark. It's now in the UK on an average income roughly hitting 8.1, which is just crazy when you look at the divide and how fast that's accelerating too. And so when the average person might save that first deposit, they might look at that and go, okay, I can do it in 5 years. In reality, the way that it's moving, it's probably more like 7 or 8, but they're factoring in it still as 5. It's moving further away from them, which is extremely difficult. And obviously the rental market in the UK is wild, the Wild West too.
The other thing about housing becoming unaffordable is that housing, or your own home, is the biggest tax break there is. I mean, interest you on your view on this, but owning your own home, because it's tax-free, any gains you make on it, that's the only sort of tax break available to anyone at the moment. So those who own homes are sort of accumulating, at least at the rate of inflation plus the rate of the property price going up. They have a big tax break. And if you don't own your own home, if you're renting, then you don't get that tax break. So that is another inequality of wealth. The homeowners are benefiting from this tax break, which people who don't own homes aren't.
It's really interesting, like when you look at the way that like interest, inflation, it inflates a large amount of that debt away, that interest payment away. But then when you look at the maintenance level, keeping up the house, the appearance of it, etc., furnishing house, it's really interesting. Like it doesn't end up being like a very good storage. It's basically like a storage of wealth. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, it's it's a store of wealth. It generally maintains its value over a long period of time.
Yeah.
Whereas money in the bank, generally maintains its value over a long period of time. But you don't have to put fancy furnishings in it every year.
Not every year. Yeah. They say like 1%. When we do our calculations, we look at like a maintenance amount of 1% of the value of the property is probably around it. You're gonna have to replace a roof eventually, a kitchen eventually, so it ends up being around that. It's good to own your own home, the security of it, and the fact that you can do what you want to it. These are all important to people, and I think that's what you should focus on. I treat my investments as an investment vehicle, and I don't regard my home as part of that. So it's just the way that I look at things, and many people.
But you are lucky as to have a home and that to be part of your wealth.
Exactly.
If you didn't, you'd be trying to obtain one.
Exactly. But it depends. Like some people, will completely disagree with that entirely because they rent and they invest the difference that they would have put into a house deposit. Yeah. And that can end up being better for you financially, but then there's risks to that too.
Well, the stock market's probably outperformed the housing market in the last 20 years, but profits on the stock market are taxable.
Yes, unless you're using an ISA or a pension.
Your own home isn't. But, it depends on the period of history you look at.
Exactly.
But
it depends, and how much you're putting in and all of those types of things. I mean, there's so many variables to this type of thing. You've got to be okay with the decision. What works for someone might not work for the others, and if you're happy to stay put, or if you want that digital nomad life, then owning might not be right for you. Yeah. I was wondering, obviously you were working in a hedge fund, and you were doing a thing. What made you want to step away from that, and what made you think that you could definitely still go out and do this on your own?
To do business on my own.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of, I started. I graduated when I went to study at university. I went through the care system, so I really had to work hard to get to university. But when I went to study, I did economics maths, which at that time was not a very popular degree. Anyone with a brain did law or dentistry or medicine. But I then came out, and so I went into the central bank. So it was a natural. Being in finance was a natural. Progression. It was something I liked. I liked economics. I liked maths. So being in finance was a pretty easy thing for me to do. And particularly economics. I liked economics because even though I liked maths, it combined human behaviour with maths, which I found was really interesting. And then when I got involved in financial markets, they combine sort of mathematics, human behaviour, and psychology. Psychology in markets I found fascinating. So I find it fascinating where economics plus psychology is equal to markets. So going from an economist to someone who traded in the markets or managed money in the markets, it was the introduction of psychology was really interesting. And I find one thing I find fascinating is that mild optimism in business is a good thing. It's better to be slightly optimistic in business, but as an investor, you can't do that.
No.
You cannot be optimistic. You can't be pessimistic. Ideally, the precise odds, and you are sitting right in the middle. So I've always found it interesting that optimism in business is a good thing, investing a bad thing.
Yeah. So Charlie Munger says that you should find the 11 ways of destroying this business before you invest in it, and if you find the one, then you don't invest.
Well, I was going to, I've rarely mentioned my book, but it was a bestseller 20 years ago, Taming the Lion. Hold it up for the camera, whichever camera it is. I put in there. The reason I call it Taming the Lion is because investing, you need to start with a fear of the markets.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think that you can beat the markets, you're in trouble. And I've run trading desks, I've run a hedge fund. Those traders who think they can beat the market, who sit down with that assumption, normally lose. And it's interesting. You mentioned that you came from your first experience was messing up on the credit card. When I traded for myself, the very first time I lost thousands on my own account in my early 20s, and I'm never taking risk again. It took a long time for me to, but that I got eaten by the lion the first time. It took a long time for me to come back and approach the lion again. What I mean by lion is that I call my book Taming the Lion because I viewed the markets as like the lion is going to eat you. You're a lion tamer. I've never been one, but a lion tamer, I assume, walks into the cage with a great respect for that lion. And he starts with the assumption that if I do anything silly, that lion will kill me. So everything after that is caution and looking for one way I can train that lion.
Yeah.
And so if investing, I always start with, and even in businesses, how is this business going to go wrong? How in investing, how's this stock going to go wrong? You start with that, and then once I'm satisfied with that, then I can go on to trying to tame the lion rather than get eaten by the lion.
I love it.
So it's interesting we came from the same background of messing up.
Yeah.
So I went from sort of running derivatives because of my maths background into trading because of my economics background, and then I did well at that, and then I ended up running a fund and then took early retirement, which was probably a big mistake because if I had I was probably the highest paid hedge fund manager in the world in the early 90s for a year or two, and then I walked away from it. I had no idea what was going to happen to the hedge fund industry. Otherwise, I would have stayed.
But why?
In it.
Why did you do that? Was it did you go I'm done, or did you see opportunity elsewhere, or want to challenge yourself? Is that?
Well, I wanted first off because I grew up in the care system. Money, oddly enough, I know it sounds a cliche. Money wasn't the number one priority, and I've made more money than I thought anyone would ever dream possible until I moved to Monaco. Then I realised there are people with want more money, but also because I did want to have a varied life. At my age, I really admired David Bowie. Do you remember David Bowie? And just how he changed
legend.
careers all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to change career. I'm going to do something different. And I wanted to play in the Chess Olympics, which I did. I wanted to write a book, which I did. I wanted to do other things. And people also, for people listening, when I meet people who are managing money and they think that that there's something wrong with the price of Apple or something wrong with this price, you need to. It is a full-on, managing money or trading currencies or trading is, if you want to do it really scientifically, is a full-on job. A bit like you mentioned, even people running social media channels now have got millions of people analysing the algorithm. It's a bit like that. So it was a very full-time job, and I didn't want to do it part-time. And it's a lot of looking at statistics and numbers. So I wanted to have a bit of a break from that. So I kind of crept away from it.
I totally
and business
understand.
Involves more people.
Yeah.
So I like the people side of business.
That's so interesting.
If you had one thing you could tell everyone about their personal finance, what would it be?
I think for me, it comes down to, it's called personal finance for a reason. We look at the neighbour with the new car, we look at the person down the road with the new jacket, and we just immediately play these status games. And it's normal, we're human beings, it's hardwired into us, but that can be the most detrimental thing to your finances over time. So just asking yourself, am I buying this, or is society or the status game telling me to buy this? And am I sticking to my guns, or am I being sucked in here? And I just love that, because it just changes your thought process around life a little bit. I have been there with the guy with the flashy clothes and the jackets and buying everybody drinks, and it didn't fill up my cup. And so I want people to know that you can just fill up your cup, and you don't have to buy these things.
And would you say social media has made sort of conspicuous consumption more necessary?
I love that you use conspicuous consumption.
I'm an economist, unfortunately.
I love conspicuous consumption. It's something I talk about all the time. Right. So yeah, no, I completely agree. You see the flashy Lambo Life Dubai guys, and you feel like that's what you're supposed to be doing, and that's what life should look like, but it's just not the case. But again, you have to go and realise this stuff yourself. You're never going to know just by learning. But it comes with age, it comes with wisdom, and it comes from a few silly purchases that you regret.
But your story is good, because you can tell it personally. You're not just telling other people what to do. You're saying, I spent too much as a teenager, and I've learnt the lesson. Yeah,
seeding that in someone is important, and putting that seed in their brain that might be a thing, rather than letting them run away with life like I did.
Okay, well, I'm going to offer you. I think I'm going to be nice. I think I'm being nice by saying no, by offering you a draw, because I think I made my point about bringing your queen out early, and it feels a bit mean to sort of keep kicking it around, but it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great fun. Thank you.
Very fascinating. Good luck with gains.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it's going to do very well. I mean, I'm going to sign up myself. What, 5%, 10%, 7%? Come on, I'd be mad not to.
Yeah, as an economics guy, you should.
Right, good on you, Sammie. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.